So
Okay.
again, thank you for joining. I know have a busy schedule. You got a small window of opportunity to share with us on WDNA and Jazz Before Midnight. And I thank you and Lauren for that matter. Um, Tell me,
Our pleasure.
when you first started to perform as an artist and as an arranger and a composer, what was that passion that drove you to big band music?
Well, when I was about 10, I moved to my family moved from Shreveport, Louisiana to Denton, Texas. And in Denton, Texas is a university, University of North Texas. It was
Right.
called, at that point, it was called North Texas State University. My
Okay.
dad got a job there, and they were famous for having the first jazz program where you could actually get a degree in jazz.
Okay.
And they had, at that point, I think 10 or 11 big bands. And because my dad was teaching there, he would take me to, his rehearsals and, after school, I'd have to hang out there. So I was exposed to all this learning about jazz in a way. And I, I was playing music at that point, and at the moment it clicked for me, he brought a Thad Jones Mel Lewis record.
Okay.
And I was probably 13, something like that.
Right.
And I've been obsessed ever since, really.
Right.
It was Thad Jones, and then he brought Walking in Space. I remember being at the record store actually and saying, wow, that looks like a cool record.
Right.
And so I mowed lawns, to pay for records. And that's how it started. And I really wanted to be those guys, man. I wanted to be Quincy Jones when I was, in junior high school.
Yeah.
And
I was wondering about that because Quincy Jones, of course, was started as an arranger many years ago and composing and with big ensembles and so forth. I was wondering if you got a chance to see Thad Jones, Mel Lewis perform at the Village Vanguard.
not at the Vanguard, but I saw him 3 times.
Uh,
Uh, Once in a club called Dante's, uh, and this must have been, mid 70s, something like that. They
wow.
were all had dashikis on, they were and then Pepper Adams, all those guys,
Yeah.
Jerome, Snooky, Roland Hanna, they were all there. And
Wow.
then I saw them at the Shelley's Manhole, the new version of it that was sort of around the same time.
Right.
And I saw them at Royce Hall.
Okay.
And the one at Shelley's, Dee Dee Bridgewater was there. Very young Dee Dee Bridgewater.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, going forward with, say, ensembles or orchestras like International Jazz Day, how did that begin for you? And are you going to be with 2025 when they have it next year?
Yeah, we're making plans already.
Uh,
Uh, let's see. You mean how did I get involved, or how
yes,
did it start?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, George Duke couldn't make the Monk Institute. I think it was a 25 or 30-year anniversary of the Institute. And he had been the musical director for them all this time, and he couldn't make that event. So George recommended me to be the musical director, and I met, all the folks there, and I was already familiar with and had met Herbie and Wayne and a lot of the board members and stuff. So,
Right.
and of course, a lot of the players. So they invited me, and what I remember most about that is not only did they pay tribute to Aretha, we did this whole big Aretha medley. I'll wait for the airplane. We did a whole big Aretha Franklin medley with Chaka Khan, Dee Dee, Diane Reeves, probably a few more that I can't remember. But anyway, that was amazing. And
Wow.
Aretha was there. And the other thing I remember was that I had the I had all the past winners of the Monk Institute. 25 of them or 20 of them, let's say. And they asked me to, and so I said, well, I should write a medley of monk tunes featuring each one of them, so it's like a very short, sort of a mashup of all these monk tunes
Right.
for all the winners. And so at that point, uh, Herbie had gotten the go ahead with UNESCO to go ahead with the concert, the first inaugural concert, and that was in France, in Paris, and the same day, later that day, they had one in New York at the UN. So George was the musical director for the UN concert, and I did Paris. And after that, George decided he was too busy, and so I just kind of took over after
Right.
that point.
What a magical journey that must have been,
It's
right
been
to the
amazing.
beginning, starting out. So did the Orchestra recordings that you have released, did they have a beginning back in those days as you were working with the International Jazz Day? Did you conceptualize doing the orchestra recordings then, or no?
Well, in a way, you could say that was a prequel, because
Yeah,
it got to my mind that I could, mash up all these monk tunes and make a program.
right.
What happened with Monkestra was that I was writing for the Luckman Jazz Orchestra that was here in LA. Um, and they gave 4 concerts a year at a university. And it was led by Charles Owens, the saxophone player. I don't know if you
Mhm.
know that name. Ndugu would be in the band. Biddy Maupin was in the band. It was a great band. Um, and he he wanted to do a program of Monk, so he hired me to do a few of those arrangements. And at that point, I I was like, oh, I can really put my own self and my own sound, if you will,
Yes,
into his music,
right.
and use his as a springboard and an inspiration.
Yes,
So that's how that got started. I had a couple of charts after that concert, and I decided to keep writing. And I called a bunch of my friends to meet at the Union and to read them down. Everybody had a good time, so I
right.
kept writing, and I had enough material for a set, so we all went to the Blue Whale and and played the same set twice,
Right,
and I liked it, so I just kept going.
right. And hence now today, two recordings,
3, yes,
3 recordings. Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
right,
yeah, that's right. I think when I met you here in Miami, you were performing at University of Miami with some of those charts and with the students over there.
that's right.
I think I got a couple of autographed CDs, if you will,
I
from
remember meeting you there for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was a magical night. Um, and thank you again for giving me that 30-second promotional tape in New York at the Jazz Congress. That was a
yeah,
magical weekend as well. 2019, I think it was, and they did the tribute to Roy Hargrove
that's right.
during that
That's right.
Congress, which was a massive production, as you probably remember.
It
Um,
was a 3-hour concert. I remember it
three
just
hour
went on.
concert. I mean,
Yeah,
you're in your seat for 3 hours. Water, bathroom, all those other things went out the window, man. You're not moving. You stand right there.
yeah, that's right.
Um, on your show on Sirius FM, do you ever play the big bands? I'm sure you do. Roy Hargrove or Captain Big Black, or Orrin Evans and Captain Big Black,
Right.
San Francisco Jazz Orchestra,
Yeah,
Christian McBride. Yeah,
sure. I haven't done a big band show in a few years, but for a while there, I was doing I was kind of doing featuring large ensembles and
yeah,
stuff. Sure, along with Gil and
yeah.
classics,
Right, right. It's such
G.
a
Hayes.
such a meaty production. Generally our jazz formats. I mean, we're maybe 3, 5, 7, 8, maybe 8 minutes, in for a particular recording, and I have to kind of gauge, you know, the airing of these ensemble recordings because of they're so massive rather, so
Yeah,
big.
the length. Yeah.
Yes, and the length as well. So it's always good to do it for me anyway, and but it's always kind of a way to integrate that big band format in with other types of ensembles.
Well, we appreciate you doing that, my friend. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. How about your recording with Herbie Hancock, the Herbie Hancock project, and Dwight Tribble? How did that work out for you? What's some of your thoughts on those two recordings, if you
Yeah,
will?
you're talking about Letter to Herbie.
Yes.
Um, the owner of that record company, George Clavin, approached me and said, "Yeah, I'd like to do a record with you, but I want you to do Herbie Hancock." And I was like, "Well, that's a bullseye on your back if there ever was for a pianist, you know."
Right.
And I said, "Man, why don't you do it with a trumpet player or another instrument, right?" Um, and so I kind of left it alone for a while. And I was teaching and at a jazz camp, and I had a couple minutes off, so I went to a practice room, was just playing the piano and practicing. And um, I kind of started was practicing there's a cycle, a chord cycle in Herbie's song "Tell Me a Bedtime Story."
Right.
Beep, bop, boom, bing, gong, 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 ding, boom, boom, bing. So I was just kind of going through those changes and learning them, learning how to play over them, and something clicked in my consciousness, and think, well, wow, what would that sound like with the maiden voyage rhythm?
Uh-huh.
Those chords, ding, 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 right?
Right.
And then, wow, man, will the melody work off of that? It did. And at that point, I thought, oh, this is how I could do a Hancock record. Using my imagination,
Sure.
flip his songs and make, sort of like I did with Monk, and put my own voice in it without, here's another piano player playing, you know, often dance, and
Right. Right.
so that's how that happened. And I called him up and said, "Oh, I think I could do this now."
Okay. All right. But at first view, you had to like wrap your head around the whole
No, no,
idea.
no, no, no,
You
no.
know,
Bullseye.
wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and what about Dwight Tribble?
Yeah, Dwight, is a fixture here on the LA jazz scene here. And now he has taken over um, the stewardship of the world stage, which is a jazz cultural center in South Central Los Angeles, Leimert Park, that Billy Higgins started 30 years ago, maybe
Okay.
more.
Okay.
And it's a place when Billy was there that I used to go to learn when I first got here. And you know, uh, if Dexter Gordon was in town, he would go there and talk for a while. You
Wow.
know, I saw Barry Harris there on a number of occasions, and it was a great institute. So I met Dwight there years ago,
Okay.
and we kept thinking, yeah, we got to do something, we got to do something. And he started hiring me to play in his bands when he would have concerts. And then at one point we said, well, let's just get together and, you know, just the two of us and see what happens.
Right.
So that record came about because we did a live living room concert, like a parlor concert, and they recorded it, and half of that record is from that live recording. And then he would come over to my studio, to my house, and I put up a couple mics, and we just improvise, and uh, that's how that record came about. I'm glad you know about that record because we put it out ourselves,
Right.
without really any promotion at all. And um, I don't even think we printed CDs. I can't even remember if we printed CDs or not.
I
But
well actually when I aired it on my show, I downloaded from a record program like Apple Music.
Yeah, it's streamed. You can stream it and buy it
Yeah,
online, but
right.
yeah.
Streaming.
And in fact, man, there's a really haunting version of Strange Fruit on that record.
It is. Yeah, it requires some thought and time to sit with it for a minute.
It's probably the most, I mean, Billie Holiday's version is very emotional because of the way she delivers the vocal, but this is intense,
Yes.
and really it's almost like scoring the lyrics.
Right, right.
So,
Well, I've seen and heard him on videos with Kamasi Washington. So apparently that West Coast Get Down organization, all those guys, it's a tight knit group, and I just enjoy hearing them whenever I can. I saw them in Detroit years ago. Coming forward to your present project, you have three that you just released. One is a big band recording, Returning to Forever on Candid Records. It's a 17-piece orchestra, the Frankfurt Radio Big Band. Talk about how you chose the records on that album from the massive body of work that Chick Corea had.
okay, yeah, sure. We actually focused on the music of Return to Forever.
Right.
Those two bands, the I'd say more Brazilian leaning band with Ayrton, Joe
Okay.
Farrell, Flora Purim, Stanley Clark, and Chick.
Okay.
And then of course the electric version with Chick Stanley, Lenny White, and a couple different guitar players, mostly Al. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Al Dimio. So when I've worked with the Frankfurt Radio Big Band quite a few times, and I was there working on a SOMI project that we did in 2019, and we were having dinner before the show, and they said, "Well, what else would you like to do?" And again, it just kind of I knew that Olaf, the manager of the band, was a guitarist and he loves fusion. So we were talking about that, and he said, "Yeah, I love Return to Forever." I said, "Well, why don't we do a big band version of Return to Forever's music?" So we did it, and I started writing at the end of 2019 into 2020, and we all know what happened then.
Right.
So the concert schedule of that project got canceled, of course, and I kept writing. And at one point, I reached out to Chick.
Right.
And
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I reached out to Chick and Stanley to get their, I guess, stamp of approval. And I was talking with Chick, and I said, do you have any lead sheets of this music, from 30 years ago? He said, "Yeah, I've got all my original stuff. I'll send PDFs. I'll send copies."
Wow.
It was all his original handwriting, And then he said, "Well, when you get through, send me your demos." And so I'd finished 4 arrangements. I guess I'm trying to remember when he died. It was in 2021.
21, I believe.
February of 2021, yeah. So I'd finished 4, and thought to myself, well, it's time to send in some demos, see what he thinks. And a few days, I didn't do it immediately. A few days later, we found that he had passed on, and so unfortunately, he didn't get to hear them.
Yeah,
but Stanley's heard them.
Okay.
And he's enjoyed them. And Bernie Kirsch, who is Chick's longtime recording engineer, and of course, they're Chick's organization that controls a lot of his body of work. Right. Seem to be enjoying it. So that's good.
Yeah, well, congratulations. I was listening to it just the other day, and what's the tune about the mouse?
Senior Mouse, Captain Senior Mouse.
Right. Did I hear a portion of Spain towards the end of that recording, or is that my imagination?
There is a Spain quote.
Okay.
At the end of one of those songs in that record.
Right.
There's also a quote. I do a quote of 500 miles high
Okay,
in
okay,
in No Mystery.
okay.
But for right now, I don't remember which tune it is that Spain is
Well,
in there, but it's in there.
yeah, I was listening to it, and then then it came to that part of the recording where I said, "Oh wow, that's Spain," and kind of wrapped it all together because these pieces are so massive and so large. I mean, the sections of the recording. I mean, it's just how do you do that? I mean, in terms of arranging all this stuff, or like from 4 instruments to 17. I mean, how does that creatively work for you?
Um,
I mean, you
well,
mentioned your
I
imagination.
kind of, yeah, I hear it in my head. A lot of times it's not when I'm at the piano or at the computer. I'm walking around. I'm uh, sometimes in the middle of a conversation with my wife, and she goes, "Where did you go?" You know, um, yeah, and I tend to sing into my phone. Sorry.
Okay. It's okay.
I figure since you're in Miami, I'd be outside too,
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm
Yeah.
looking outside, but I'm actually inside
Yeah.
in my studio apartment.
So I hear things and I sing into my phone. And when I'm writing, I don't I don't edit while I write. I just go in and go back and edit later. So
Right.
I just kind of go stream of consciousness,
Right.
almost like improvising in
Yes.
so many ways.
Well, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying that particular recording. I mean, I've had to play different tunes of it and kind of absorb it because it's just such a wonderful gesture towards the music, and your treatment of it is really wonderful. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do that 17-piece recording with that band. Uh,
Well, that was an honor for sure.
yeah.
I
Uh,
grew up, I wouldn't be who I am right now without Chick Corea.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's a wonderful commentary. What about performing with that band? Would you only do it in Germany, or is that something that may travel to New York or LA or something for a live performance of that band?
That'd be great. Yeah. So far, it's just been gigs in Germany.
Right.
But last August, uh, I traveled with another radio big band, uh, and we played at Dizzy's in August for a
Okay.
week. And that
Okay.
was the Charlie Parker project with it's called Bird Lives, and that was with SWR, which is the Stuttgart radio big band.
Right.
So it is possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And yeah, sure, that would be great to do that. You know,
The
we
other.
are going to do some gigs. Sorry,
Okay.
with Monkestra and my big band. We have some gigs coming up, so we are gonna play some of that material in those concerts.
In LA, New York, or
LA, LA and San Francisco. We're at the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, the
okay.
21st of September. Um, and then we're at SF Jazz in San Francisco on October 10th.
Okay.
And so, we'll definitely include some of those arrangements.
Thank you.
But
Thank
yeah, to have the Frankfurt band would be amazing. That would be great.
I, I'm just trying to see, you were at the DC Jazz Festival, right, recently?
Yeah.
And what kind of ensemble did you have there?
I was playing with Diane Reeves, so it was her quartet.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But
Uh,
they did have a big band. They had it's the Afro-Cuban band out of New York. He's a drummer. He also has a radio show. I can't remember.
Bobby
Oh,
Sinatra.
Bobby Santa Maria. His band was there. So
Oh,
they
okay,
do bring big bands.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So maybe next year.
okay. The second project I wanted to talk about is Butterfly Effect, where you compose and you perform as a pianist on that with the saxophonist Magnus Lindgren. How did that come about?
Magnus and I co-arranged the Charlie Parker record we did, tribute record called Bird Lives.
Okay,
That came out in maybe 2021, 22.
okay,
And we built a nice relationship. We think a lot, we write a lot alike together, we write together. And our next project was writing a symphony for a symphony in Germany, the Bielefeld Philharmonic.
mm,
And so, and the name of the symphony is The Butterfly Suite.
okay,
And so we said, man, let's go out and play, let's find a way to go just duo gigs so we can keep this going.
right,
And so we incorporated some of those themes from that symphony into this record, along with some of his compositions and my
okay.
composition.
I mean, it's,
And it was recorded in one day, at a beautiful art gallery in Berlin.
mm,
And it's a very honest, open record, I feel like,
yeah,
'cause it's not a lot, it's not a big band, it's just the two of us.
just the two of
And
you.
no punching in, directed two
Yeah,
track,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Just
And
play.
we were able to tour it and got some more dates coming up next year. So it's a it's a nice uh uh alternative to playing with a large ensemble or a
Sure,
symphony, be able to
sure.
just play and improvise on stage.
Just two cats get on the stage and go.
That's right.
And lastly, the Three for Africa, where you perform as a pianist and you compose with Joe Gola, I think it is, and Horatio El Negro Hernandez. Three for Africa, is that the three of you for Africa, or is that some other idea that we,
Yeah. Also, Africa's it's in three. Dun, 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 decade. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or
okay,
one,
okay,
one,
okay,
2. A lot of African rhythms are
yes,
in three. And of course, they're from Cuba.
right,
Jose Gola and El Negro are both Cubans, and which is probably the most direct influence from Yoruban culture in West Africa, um, because they were allowed to keep their drums in their ceremonies, right?
sure,
North America, um, you know, we all know the story there.
right.
Uh, they weren't allowed to play drums, and the slaves, and so um, yeah, so they're totally immersed in Afro-Cuban, you know, music. And it's the name of the record is El Trio, and that's the name of the band.
Right,
And we decided to use electric keyboards, and make it sort of Afro-Cuban fusion music. And and that's what it is. A
it's
lot of
gonna
the
be,
some of the sorry.
I'm sorry, it's a single, or is it gonna be a part of an album?
No, it's a full record that's out. It came out last November, I believe, in America. Yeah.
Hold on one second, John.